Hey, you guys. Okay, we're going to read what is the Bermuda Triangle. We are actually on chapter 2. It's called Lost at Sea. As the years went by, many ships were lost in the Bermuda Triangle. In 1880, a huge ship called the Atalanta sailed from Bermuda toward England. On board were 290 men, officers and young cadets. The ship never reached England. None of the men were ever seen again. Here's a picture of the Atalanta. The very next year, an even stranger thing happened. A ship called the Ellen Austin was sailing in the Atlantic north of the Sargasso Sea. All of a sudden, someone on board spotted a derelict, a ghost ship. Derelict is the word for ships that are found drifting upright on the ocean with no one on board. What had happened? Did it fall under the spell of some unknown force in that part of the ocean? So this is the derelict ship, ghost ship. The captain of the Ellen Austin watched the ghost ship drifting for 2 days. He wanted to make sure it was really abandoned. He didn't want to walk into a trap set by pirates. Finally, he decided it was safe. He sent some of his own men in a small rowboat to check out the drifting ship. When they boarded the ghost ship, they found the ship's log was missing and the name had been removed from the bow, the front of the ship. Other than that, though, it was in good condition, fully stocked with food. So this is the captain of the Ellen Austin watching. And then this is the little boat with his men going to investigate. So the captain ordered his men to sail the abandoned ship back to New York, staying close to the Ellen Austin along the way. In those days, if someone found an abandoned ship, there was reward money for bringing it back to the nearest port. But the Ellen Austin and the ghost ship got separated by bad weather, fog, and strong winds. A few days later, the captain finally spotted the derelict again, but it was drifting crazily. And there was no one on board. His own men, the second crew, had vanished completely. Yikes. So here's the pictures of the two ships. I guess they got separated, though, by a storm. Very mysterious, huh? As time went by, more unexplained things occurred in or near the Bermuda Triangle. In 1909, one of the world's greatest sailors was a man named Joshua Slocum. He was famous for being the first man to sail alone all the way around the world. On his journeys, he had survived huge storms, attacks by pirates, and worse, but he disappeared completely on a simple solo trip that led him straight through the Bermuda Triangle. And then in 1918, a huge U.S. Navy ship called the Cyclops disappeared without ever sending a single SOS. In those days, an SOS signal would be sent in Morse code whenever a ship or boat was in trouble on the seas. The Cyclops had a radio. The crew could have called for help. Why didn't they? There were 309 men on board. All vanished. It was the largest Navy ship ever lost without a trace. It had been sailing from Barbados in the West Indies towards Chesapeake Bay. The route took it right through the heart of the Bermuda Triangle. So this is Joshua Slocum. He's the sailor who disappeared on his solo trip. And then I guess this is a Navy guy aboard the Cyclops. And here's like a little map that shows kind of its route and that it disappeared in the Bermuda Triangle. An inset about Morse code. Morse code. Morse code uses a series of dots and dashes to stand for each letter of the alphabet. It was invented by Samuel Morse, who also invented the telegraph in 1844. With the telegraph, people were able to send messages through electronic signals that traveled over wires using Morse code. Later, Morse code was used to send signals over radio waves. To send an SOS signal in Morse code, a radio operator would tap out a series of dots and dashes. The code for S is 3 dots, or 3 short signals. The code for O is 3 dashes, or 3 long signals. So the code for SOS is ... dash, 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 ... The code can be sent as electronic sounds or even as short and long flashes of light with a flashlight or a mirror. Some people say that SOS stands for Save Our Ship, but it was actually chosen as a distress signal because it was an easy message to send and understand, no matter what language operators were using. SOS is not used very often anymore. Today, the word Mayday is used as the international signal for distress, a sign that someone is in trouble. Mayday comes from a French phrase, m'aider, which means help me. It is a crime to send a false SOS or Mayday when nothing is wrong. So here's like the table for what each letter, how you would send each letter in Morse code. The Cyclops wasn't the last ship to run into strange troubles in those dangerous waters. Only a few years later, another ghost ship was found adrift, and this time the story was filled with so many twists and turns it could have been a spy movie. Chapter 3, Another Ghost Ship. 3 years after the Cyclops disappeared, another strange and mysterious event occurred in the Bermuda Triangle. A large 5-masted ship called the Carol A. Deering was spotted stuck on a sandbar off the coast of North Carolina. That's the Deering. No humans were on board, but a meal was still cooking on the stove. Most of the captain's and crew's things were missing. Clothes, luggage, a heavy trunk. 2 cats seemed to have the run of the place. Had the captain and crew climbed into the lifeboats trying to escape during the storm? If so, how could they have taken all those heavy bags with them? Or had something weirder happened? All sorts of possibilities were put forth in the newspapers. Maybe there was a mutiny on board. A mutiny is when the crew of a ship rebels against the captain and takes over. Maybe the crew killed the captain and then rowed ashore in small boats. Other people thought pirates had come aboard and taken over. Here's a picture of the cats on board. And here is a picture of like one of the theories that there was a mutiny. There was very little, however, to back up most of these ideas. Then, in June 1921, the New York Times reported that a message had been found in a bottle on the shore in North Carolina. The message appeared to have been written by one of the crew members. It said the ship had been taken over and the crew had been put in leg irons. The captain's wife hired a handwriting expert to look at the message. She wanted to know who had written it. For a while, she was convinced it had been written by Henry Bates, one of the crew members on her husband's ship. Later, though, the man who discovered the message in the bottle admitted it was a hoax or a trick. Finally, the New York Police Department said maybe Russians were to blame. The police had heard stories about a Russian scheme. According to the stories, a group of Russians living in America would get themselves hired as sailors on a ship. Once at sea, they would mutiny. Then they'd sail the ship to a Russian port. Maybe Russians took over the ship and then had to abandon it during bad weather. Years later, though, some people began to suspect another reason. They thought that Carol A. Deering had been a victim of the Bermuda Triangle. Here's the picture of the message in a bottle that turned out to be fake. As time went by, the list of ships that had gone missing in the Bermuda Triangle kept piling up. In 1941, 2 more huge Navy ships disappeared. They were sister ships to the Cyclops. They had been sailing through the Triangle on a trip north to Portland, Maine. So this is one of them. A few years later, a ship called the Rubicon was found drifting off the coast of Florida with only a dog on board. What had happened to the captain? Why were all of his clothes still there? Here's a picture of the Rubicon and the dog standing there. Wow. Okay. Here's an inset. Is it a boat or a ship? What's the difference between a boat and a ship? The U.S. Naval Institute says you can put a boat on a ship, but you can't put a ship on a boat. What that means is that ships are big enough so they can carry smaller boats on them, lifeboats for instance, but boats are usually too small to carry other boats. Some ships, however, are so big they can carry another ship. The smaller ship riding on the gigantic one doesn't suddenly become a boat just because it's piggybacking. Here's a picture. In 1952, a writer named George X. Sand wrote an article about all the disappearances in the Atlantic Ocean. The article was printed in Fate magazine, a magazine that printed stories about ghosts and UFOs and other weird legends and mysteries. Sand described the triangular area of water where boats, ships, and planes seem to disappear without a trace, but he didn't invent the name Bermuda Triangle. The name was invented by another writer, Vincent Gaddis, in 1964. He wrote a cover story about the mysterious Bermuda Triangle for a magazine called Argosy. 10 years later, a writer named Charles Berlitz wrote a best-selling book that made the Bermuda Triangle a popular topic all over the world. Some people thought the idea of a Bermuda Triangle was silly. They said it was easy to explain why boats would sink or vanish in the ocean. The ocean is huge. At times, it is filled with enormous, powerful waves that roll and swirl. Of course, huge waves can swallow up smaller boats or cause big ships to turn over. But what about planes? How could anyone explain all the planes that disappeared over the very same triangular spot on the map? So this is the article that George Sand wrote, and then the next picture is the Argosy, and that's where the guy first used the name Bermuda Triangle. Okay, the next chapter is about all the planes that disappeared over the Bermuda Triangle. It's called Lost in the Sky. So we'll read that tomorrow. I hope you're enjoying the book about the Bermuda Triangle. It's always been kind of a weird, mysterious thing, so it's kind of fun to read about. Okay, that's all I have for you guys today. I'm going to get Khaleesi, and we're going to go downstairs. She's going to have some dinner, and then we're going to build some Legos and cuddle on the couch. That's her favorite time of night. She loves to eat, and then she loves to cuddle. All right, you guys. Also, please check Google Classroom. I have put I have put a journal place for you on there. It's called Daily Diary or something like that. I don't remember. You'll have to look. But it's for you to put anything you're feeling. So if you're feeling overwhelmed or sad or scared or happy or relaxed, whatever feelings you're feeling, if you want to journal them, if you want to write about your feelings, I'll be reading that. I'm the only one who will be reading it, but sometimes it helps to write about your feelings, whether they're good feelings or bad feelings. And if there's things you're worried about, things that you want to know about, questions you have, if you type them in your journal entry, I'll read them and I will answer you. I'll get back to you and let you know if there's anything I can do to make you feel better, or if there's any solutions I can find to some of the things that you're upset about. I'll do my best. I sometimes feel like if you have a bunch of feelings and you're not sure what to do with them, sometimes writing about them is the best thing you can possibly do. So that's on Google Classroom. I know that I have a few people who have already written me a lot of things in there, and I can't wait to go read them tonight. Please understand it won't be graded. It's not, I don't care about your spelling. I don't care about grammar. It's just a place for you to put down your feelings, whatever those feelings are, because your feelings are valid. Your feelings matter no matter what those feelings are. Okay, so make sure that if you have feelings you want to write about, go ahead and add them to your journal. Everybody has their own separate journal. So, okay, miss you guys and hope everything's okay. And I will talk to you again tomorrow. Bye.